Hi, my name is Rolien Zonneveld and I'm a arts, culture and fashion editor and writer. Today we'll be meeting the class of 2020. These are the graduating students of this year. Not necessarily the top of the class, but rather students that have really managed to capture the zeitgeist. We'll be meeting them and speak with them about their hopes for the future. Come on in.
Hi, my name is Lara Warson and I recently graduated in fashion design from the Willem de Kooning Academy in Rotterdam. I did this from my parents' house in Belgium where the lockdown restrictions were very severe. That's why I started searching for new approaches and I started collecting random objects laying in my house. By attaching these to a mannequin, silhouettes were created that I couldn't have drawn by hand that easily. But to get a deeper insight of what exactly I was doing, I based my research on upcycling and how it can be used as a design method to merge sustainable and sculptural fashion. So I learned about the symbolic associations that each object contains, depending on societal values, time, culture, etc. So I collected objects related to climate activists, and this formed the base of my eco-warrior collection made of forgotten objects and organic cotton.
Hi, my name is LINN Alleman and my collection is called The Closer One Looks, the More Clear It Becomes, and it's inspired by my family and the similarities of Dutch and Indonesian folkloric clothing. I'm partly Dutch, partly Indonesian myself, and I always found myself in between those cultures. So that's why I wanted to find something physical which allowed me express both cultures at the same time, and luckily I found that in the similarities within folkloric clothing. I would like to call my collection a modern folkloric clothing collection, and when you wear the garments you are allowed to be connected with both cultures but also allowed to express them at the same time.
Hi, my name is Hailey Kim. I'm from South Korea and I graduated from Royal Academy of Art in The Hague from Fashion and Textile Department. So my work is focused on knotting techniques and bright colors. I intend to make the knotting of my own interpretation and created my own multicolored robe by passementery. The bright colors and techniques are inspired my grandmother and Korean women sea divers who represent strong independent women in South Korea. My grandmother was really a strong woman, a hardworking lady, raised 6 children by herself. So my work is a tribute to my grandmother and the celebrations of the Korean sea divers.
Hey, my name is IdanGrady and I've created the project Denaturing. Denaturing is a project that goes in two main paths. The one is about my own personal history, and the other is about what I believe we should be aware of in the about to come. I started this project with a question. How did my DNA change after I finished the war? Because I realized that my personality drastically changed after that event. But what happened in me internally? I did not know. What I found out that there is no clear correlation between PTSD or post-traumatic disorder to DNA. But what I also found out, that science is very well explaining us how things function, but it does not really explain us what things actually are. I created a sequence of bodies, an evolution, we can call it. The beginning of the evolution is the clothes I wore in the war. As we go along the time, from the past until the present, I alter the DNA of the body based on my own personal evolution. But from the present until the future, I altered the DNA as I wanted. But what I actually want to say, when we say we own our future, what is this our? Is it my future? When I say I own my future, do I own only my future? Or we also own future of people in Africa and in Afghanistan and in Israel and in Pakistan and in India and also in the States and the Netherlands. When we say we own our future, we need to understand that we own everybody's future. And also we need to be mild with our action, because the consequences we are having is not, I'm not only the person that is going to suffer from those consequences, however, everyone. And this is actually the mission for this project. Amen.
Hi, my name is Josephine Malcorps and my graduation collection is called In Solitude She Dwells. When I start my process, at least like 9 months ago, I started with the gut feeling. The virus was getting closer and feelings of melancholia overwhelmed me. Melancholia is something beautiful to me because it's way softer than sadness, but it has something gloomy that inspires me. It drove me to a certain nostalgia to how things were, like a romantic picture of the past. Yeah, my Norwegian heritage is something very important to me, and this never like stays out of my concepts or collections. So I was collecting research, and I came around these beautiful portrait pictures of 19th century Norwegian women, and they embodied this emotion to me, this certain solitude and gloominess that I find beautiful, and it touched me. So that was my like starting point for this graduation project. I researched more to my Norwegian culture and heritage, and I came around so many beautiful things that I never knew and made me feel more Norwegian than ever. I actually found out that Norwegian is the epicenter of the minor key, and it all clicked to me. So yeah, I was collecting all these beautiful materials that also connected me on an emotional level, that I found beautiful and touched me. So this whole collection became such a personal thing to me, like the materials that are collected and kept for many years, and this fictional story I wrote that embodied the emotions that I felt at that point. So this total picture became something very dear to me. For my personally, craftsmanship and tailoring is something very important. I put my heart and soul into my craft, making something that is nearly perfect, but still has some personal touches that are just like making it real. This outfit that is shown today is my last outfit of my collection. It is made out of all these beautiful vintage curtains that embody that feeling of nostalgia, and it almost like conceals her. It is has trademarks of Norwegian folklore, which I found beautiful and romantic. So this is like the grande finale of the whole collection, which is a combination of like romance, melancholia, something that is like a little bit of friction into this softness. It's a beautiful contrasting balance in between melancholia and nostalgia. So yeah, I hope you will feel the emotion that I put into this garment, and by this laying this connection with the viewer or the wearer, and that is what I want with my creations actually, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Mus and I graduated from the HKU last summer. With this project called Stil Even, I tried to draw new attention to all the things we already have. We are able to make such beautiful things, but the world is filled with stuff and you easily overlook the value of the simplest things. I want you to re-experience these daily objects who are always there. By presenting them as if they are human beings, I hope you find the respect they deserve and you maybe find an emotional connection to them.
Hi, my name is Carolin and this is my collection Sublime Devastation. My collection is split in 3 different stages: disruption, mutation and degradation. And the base concept of this collection is the connection between humanity and the ocean, but also connections within the ocean and connections between humans on different continents, different countries. You can see the 3 stages very clear through elements like glitches and literal disruptions in the jewelry, going over to mutation where the marine elements really grow over and mutate, going into disruption where the pieces, the structures really get disrupted by the ocean, by the marine life. The title Sublime Devastation really comes from the moment a human has a sublime experience that changes the point of view and the point of perspective on the connection between humanity and the ocean, and starts the process of changing the mindset about this connection to nature again.
Hi, my name is Charlotte and I graduated from Design Academy Eindhoven with my short film Polygons are the Weft of the Weave. In this short film, I imagine the future of digitalized fashion. I present myself as the model and as the designer of my future collection that's full of digital assets that anyone can purchase and upload onto themselves to dress up their digital alter ego to my future vision.
My name is Katja and I have one of the biggest problems and that problem is called technologies. And I think that the technologies, they basically make us lazy, make us helpless, and they kind of destroy our lives. And I was just thinking, I asked myself, what would we do if a blackout happens? So I decided to set up an experiment and to go back in time and space to my motherland. I'm Russian. And so I decided to go back in time and space to my motherland, to Russia, and to see how people would survive without automation, social media and trend forecasters. So basically what struck me the most was the idea of life being predefined. And the fact that young girls would need to prepare their dowry by the age of 12. So basically all the outfits for all the future time to come, including a death robe, they would need to prepare already at the age of 12. So I decided to do basically the same, and I took my graduation project as initiation, and then the process of work on that project would be my mental and physical preparation for the future. So basically what I did for every particular outfit I developed, I used traditional sort of hacked techniques because I never learned technique fully. I tried to understand it how I can, and then I take it from there. So I used only traditional hacked techniques such as bobbin lace, needlepoint lace, tatting, tablet weaving, felting, crochet, knitting, hand embroidery, freehand machine embroidery, and all different sorts of Russian traditional techniques such as raised pearl work technique. So I basically created all my garments by hand manually, solely on my own. So in my process I did not use any new materials, so I used only the materials that I could find. And I did not use the electricity, so I used really analog, like this knitting machine, which is the knitting machine from the 80s. And I had a threadle sewing machine that I used for my freehand embroidery. The interesting part of the process of working on it was that the way how much labor-intensive and time-consuming the process is allows you to be at the moment and allows you to have full control over your creation. And it gives you a really nice feeling. It creates this bond between the creator and the creation. And I think this is the most valuable aspect of having a garment, basically, or having any item, just to have the bond and have this sort of pride of what you've made.
Hi, my name is Ilse Kremer and I'm the designer of Fabulous Fungi. Fabulous Fungi is a project about water pollution caused by the textile dyes. This is actually one of the biggest problems of the fashion industry, but it isn't recognized by the majority of people. Therefore, I want to create awareness for this huge problem and show that there's an alternative. This alternative is fungal dye. It's textile dye made with the use of fungi. There are several fungal species which produce colorful pigments and which are suitable and safe to use. Together with Westerlijk Fungal Biodiversity Institute, I researched how to grow the fungi and how to extract the pigments. The dye reacts differently on different kinds of fabrics, and I use this effect to create prints. These prints are inspired by chemical structures of the fungal pigments. Fungal dye will have many benefits over synthetic dye, and it's even suitable for industrial use. So I believe this will be the future of textile dyes. This gets sort of pink color, and here on silk it's becoming red. And for example, with this fungi, that is the one you see over here. Here it's growing, and you already see the pigments. On cotton and linen, it gets sort of little purplish color, and on silk it's becoming yellow. So that's very interesting.
I'm Hanakin, and the name of my collection is Signs of Life, Livstecken in Swedish. I wanted to name it actually in Swedish, since it's such a personal collection for me. I wanted it to be about pleasure, actually. The pleasure that I feel when I touch textile and when I wear clothes that I really like. In a way, it's a quotidian kind of pleasure, like the kind that you can feel every day. Something that comes from, say, like knowledge of the history of a garment, or the texture of it, the smell of it, the proof of experience. So in a way, it's all very connected to history and my personal history. I sourced all the fabrics from the garments also from my home province, from the south of Sweden. So it's all it's like hand woven linen towels that I bought from a market maybe, or an old linen tablecloth. Something that does not only bring a color, it also brings a scent, and it also brings maybe a texture or some kind of color variations. The yellow dress that's in the exhibition here, for instance, is tea and onion skin and turmeric, and then it's been hand smocked by me, and also a little bit waxed to try to keep the color intact. It's probably already faded a bit by the time you see it. And I guess I just wanted to remind the wearer of it, of the kind of like the pleasures of handcraft, of doing it yourself, and then also wearing it. So inviting the wearer also to change and to mend, seeing the hand mended details that I've done, or even left. Sometimes I just leave the holes there to add to the history of the garment. So yeah, it's a very personal collection for me. So I hope you can feel what I feel when I see it.
Hello, my name is Josja. I'm 26 years old and I graduated this year at the University of Arts. My graduation work, which is called Focus and Find Yours, is based on my fascination for people who love to collect, and especially my uncle, who has a big record collection, to slightly show the deeper layers of our consuming behaviors. It's a fact that collecting is in our DNA, and I'm definitely fascinated by collectors and how they build a small museum inside their homes. I love how it shows who they are as a person, and they are proud of the things they already have and want to show the world their collection. I really want to portray the idea of the rhythm and repetition and diversity of collecting through my work. I love the many hours of the craft making process, being a collector myself and making my designs, my prints and fabrics. And what I really hope is when people look at my work that they cherish and love their position as a collector does. So yeah, here's my work.
Well, hello everyone. I've spoken to some of you, but not all of you yet. My name is Rolien Zonneveld. I am a writer and editor, mainly focusing on arts, culture and fashion. A little bit unconventional, I think. I don't write trend reports. I don't know much about fashion in that regard. I like to think of fashion as something which has a sort of cultural and societal depth to it. Especially now, what we've seen is how fashion can really speak to some wider, interesting issues like identity politics, sustainability. So it's more like a prism that I like to look through. And I think that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today as well, because I think we can conclude that you guys are you've been dealt a heavy hand this year with graduating in what could be said the most turbulent times of all. Not being able to physically show your graduation collections obviously is quite difficult because it's such a climactic experience. But it's also an interesting time. I think we're at a crossroads, and there's going to be some interesting changes within the industry at large. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that, and also about how you felt about this whole experience this year, because obviously it was quite taxing, I can imagine. And I think we just sort of break open the conversation. I want to ask you, who here has felt this year like, I don't really know what my position is as a designer in this hellscape of a world, really. I think we can be quite honest. Like, who has doubted whether they actually wanted to become a designer at all?
Okay, hello. Yeah, I have, but maybe it is mainly about the way how I approach education in general, but I think this graduation helped me to realize that I'm not really a fashion designer, or at least I don't want to be called a fashion designer anymore in a conventional sense of that word. So yeah, I fully understand and support that sort of question.
Well, yes, I felt like the world is on fire and I'm a designer. What can I do?
Yeah.
I need to be a doctor or a nurse and save the world. And what can I do now?
Mm-hmm.
So I felt a little lost.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to be a costume designer and work on film sets after my graduation. I had some shoot plans and I had some big plans, and I was going to be an amazing costume designer. And then we couldn't do any shoots, and my graduation project was in digital fashion. So it wasn't that I questioned my position as a designer or the need for designers. It was more that I questioned the need for the need for the medium that we work in, mm-hmm. and the need for the resources that we use, and the need for it to be in person and to be tactile. Mm-hmm. I started to work on concept work more, which is more sustainable in many ways because it doesn't require people to come to the shoot and doesn't cost less money. Mm-hmm. It did really force me to put my priorities in a different position and in a different mm-hmm. To put my priorities in a different position.
Yeah.
Well, I actually didn't have any problems at all with it, because I think during graduating in fashion during the pandemic has also opened my eyes, and you don't have to become a traditional fashion designer. There are so many ways, what you learned on school, how you can approach mm-hmm. The world in general. And don't ask me exactly how, but I'm quite positive for the future, to be honest.
Yeah, I think for me personally, as a student / pre-fashion designer, it was quite hard because I approached it more a traditional way. I think I want to make a collection, I want to create a video, and it's quite therapeutic for me in a way to create or embroider or work on my patterns. It's mm-hmm. So for me, it was really a big step to change in a way, with all the resources we have at school. I was so used to it, and then I had to work from home from my own little mm-hmm. sewing machine, which was okay, but it cannot do everything, Mm. So it was quite adaptive in that sentence, but Yeah, we started the petition within a second. Like, we need to have the school open. We need to be together because everybody was at home in their little room, and after a while it gets boring, and you get in this, hoe zeg je dat in het Engels, een sleur.
It's become
It's
like a drag.
repetitive every day. So you need some new impulses or some other thoughts, and you want to talk about your project with others to get new visions or thoughts, so it was quite something different. It was challenging.
Yeah, I must say, I mean, for me personally, that whole narrative that you had to be extra productive and super creative being at home and seize the opportunity to create something spectacular. I mean, I was one of the first people to think that we should really throw that overboard and, start from search a little bit more within and see where that leads you to. Because, I mean, you were already sort of alluding to it. Obviously, you guys were all now left to your own houses, studios, if you're lucky. What was it like to, without having the academy's support, and also to be in isolation, not being able to see your fellow students or your teachers? Maybe you can.
Yeah, we actually had weekly meetings with different teachers. And in the meantime, I also FaceTimed a lot with other classmates to still have this student-to-student interaction also, and indeed feedback on your project, because it's different when your feedback comes from your mother or your father than from somebody who's in the fashion industry. So. Yeah. And
did it help to have that sort of interaction with your fellow students?
Yeah, definitely. It was more, how you say, fruitful. And it was nice to hear other opinions, because you're always in your own head when you're at home and you look at your project, and after a while you start doubting, is it good what I'm doing, or really helped.
I always say that I was blessed with Corona, because I really wanted to focus on my own stuff, and I didn't want to hear anybody else's opinion, because it is just distracting in most cases. You don't know what you want to tell anymore. And then when you're all in your own small little cozy cocoon, you know exactly what you're aiming for, and you just build your own small little atelier with the things you can find, and then you go from there. I think this was the most fantastic time, at least the experience of working on my own on stuff that I like, taking as much time as I like and as I feel is needed. That was the most fantastic 6-7 months of my life. I mean, I don't care about the final result. I really care about the process, and the process was just brilliant. I was enjoying it till the fullest, and I don't regret that I needed to graduate during Corona time. It's just the exposure that is gone.
Do you think, were you one of the few ones in your class, you think?
I think so, but it's actually...
Did you keep that opinion to yourself, or?
Yeah, but also it was kind of part of my project. I started with the question, what would happen if there is a blackout? And basically then this blackout happened, so I thought, okay, that's just the fate and I need to take it. So I was kind of prepared to be thrown into this water. So I was lucky, actually.
For me, it was very difficult, because I was working with fungi and I was working together with a laboratorium. And of course, that was closed due to Corona. So I couldn't grow the fungi, and I couldn't do the experience. So that was very difficult. So I approached it first more speculative, and later I could still work with them, and I could make it, so that's very nice.
So when did you have access to the laboratorium?
It was beginning of the summer, then it opened again, and then I could grow the fungi there and make the dye, and so I created the garments as well, and now it's finished.
Yeah, I think I felt like in between things, like it came in waves, like being, like feeling very left alone from like school and everything around it. Like also, where do I get the money now from to actually realize everything? Because suddenly we can't use the facilities in school, which we have paid for, but we have to use some other ateliers or workspaces, or have to ask companies to work with us. And it's just so much more organizational work around it, which you didn't plan in the beginning into your time schedule, and at the same time also a lot of finances you didn't really realize you might need for your graduation, because the facilities weren't available. And I think for me it was an up and down between that, and also feeling very peaceful in my own home and atelier to just work away without being distracted by other classmates or teachers who like get you all stressed because they might be further or they might be critical about something. So it was up and down.
Yeah. Now I mean, this is obviously what creativity is about, right? To be agile, flexible, just, stir the thing into a whole new direction. And it's funny because these whole new hybrid forms start to emerge, or you, as you said, you might start working completely digitally. I mean, when we started to put together the issue for summer, I mean, we couldn't do any photo shoots physically, so we decided to shoot some things over Zoom, for example. So there's always new ways, and what I find interesting is that it really also has made certain things a little bit obsolete. So we're starting to really reevaluate whether we actually need a physical fashion show anymore. I think I would like to hear from you guys as well, or maybe we could discuss a little bit like what has this coronavirus revealed about the industry? It's a big question, but I think it would be quite nice to sort of think about that for a second. Maybe you guys at home in Zoom, and maybe. Yeah.
Oh yeah, start with this question. I don't know.
It's a tough one.
I've always thought that fashion and design is always a product of its time and is always something that reacts on its environments, and designers are the people to react and to be involved in the situations that evolve in the society around us. So if anything, then fashion and design reflects the situation from all different angles, and whether it's like just a philosophical change in whatever is going on in the fashion industry, which has had many problems over the years. Now people are like pointing it out and are like, see, this is absolutely unnecessary, and fashion shows are unnecessary. And
I think what this crisis also did was everyone, stepped back for a second and evaluated, and you had all these designers that were finally sort of voicing their grievances about certain things. The sort of the chokehold that the fashion weeks had on these designers, I mean, was really, taking its toll. I mean, finally, designers. Big designers, like I think it was J.W. Anderson and Dries van Noten said like, well, I think we should, bring seasonality to an end. And I think this year has really sort of exacerbated that. And is that, how do you guys feel about that type of industry you're now going to enter? It's big questions, but just think out loud.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. It is. I think the problem is not in the industry. The problem is in the people who consume the product of the industry. And then, indeed, then we can look back at what Corona does to people. Yeah, indeed, if they need to stay at home 31 days a month wearing their sweatpants, then probably indeed the demand for fashion should not be as high as before. Because at the end of the day, you will never, okay, maybe in a couple of years, maybe there's going to be, again, the big demand for something really extravagant, exuberant, and whatever, but you don't really need to buy T-shirts and really basic stuff for no money to sit at home, right? So in this case, it would affect the industry, obviously, the demand of the people, but I'm just really curious if people are willing to change. So that is my biggest question, not the seasonality that designers come up with. They can follow their own, the flow of creativity. They can, if they feel like making a collection, they should be able to make the collection. But then the consumers and then the people who sell the trends to the consumers and who keep these ball rolling, they need to change, basically.
But I actually want to bounce this question back to the floor, which is you guys. Do you think it's the consumer's responsibility to have this industry changed, or is it the people within it?
I think it's for us or for the industry to, start the changes at least. Of course, because people who are not in the industry don't really think about it. I think it's just what is there is getting consumed, and of course if people consume a lot, the production goes up, but if we as an industry show how it could be different, and there, like, I don't know, Zara has not 3 new collections every week, but we change everything, and that's just what's there, then consumer have to change and will change finally. That's what I think.
Yeah, because when we talk about changing the industry, I mean, that's a broad term, right? I think it has to do with the issue of sustainability, but also about fair practice, right? I mean, the exploitation that has long led to fast fashion to even exist is also something that should be overhauled. I mean, it's broad. Because who of you, or maybe, maybe one of you, could comment. Josephine, can comment on that. Whose responsibility is it? Is it you designers or is it the consumer?
I think at this point, if you look at the fashion industry itself, it has 2 sides. It's you have the side that noticed that we need to be more conscious and do more sustainable stuff and create more ethical and in a better way. But there's another side who's a money-making monster who does not really care about doing better. And then at that side of the practice, it is really the consumer side of making this change, because as long as they will put money in this unethical fast fashion industry, it will not change. So for me, it's on the fast fashion side, it must be the government to set some rules, or the consumer to make this go in a better direction.
Because who of you have explicitly made sustainability part of their final product / collection? Maybe raise your hand. Oh, you cannot hear it? Oh no.
Harder.
Okay, harder? So who of you have made sustainability explicitly part of their final product collection when graduating? Raise your hands, please. Yeah? So that's, I would say that's the majority, perhaps 80% of the room. And it's funny because we were discussing this earlier. It's I don't think, let's say 15 years ago or 10 years ago, this was explicitly part of a designer's practice. When we asked when you would ask a graduating designer, what do you want to become? it would always be like, I want to be the next John Galliano, right? I mean, that has really made a sharp shift, I think. Fashion no longer seems to be about selling a fantasy, selling a dream world. It's about commenting on things that we as a global community deal with. So do you consider it as your duty, and it's a big word, I know, duty, to comment on such issues as a designer, or can you actually still flirt with that fantasy, dreamlike, aspirational part of fashion that obviously it still is? I mean,
can you say the question again? Sorry.
It is what I wanted to. Do you feel it as a duty as a designer to comment on like big issues, sustainability, big, social political issues that now seems to be dominating our narrative, or do you think you can still sell the dream and,
Well, no, I don't think that I can sell the dream, but yeah, for me, in my project, it is really, a thing to do something with sustainability, but ik weet gewoon niet wat ik moet zeggen, sorry.
Misschien kun je iets vertellen. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about like how, what for you was most important in your collection or in your products, or.
For me, the most important thing was to put love and pride in my designs, and my work is about people will love to collect. And what I love about collectors is that they cherish their stuff that they already have, and I really think that we have to do it all. So what I really hope is that everyone cherishes their stuff they already have, as a collector does. Mm-hmm. So I think that is the part of sustainability that I had in my project. But I didn't use sustainable materials, but that's a step that I really wanted to do now, to create materials who are really sustainable.
But I think when you speak about the people cherishing like items and stuff, I mean that is a love for fashion and the beauty of it, and I mean I think it's actually really nice to hear that from a student in this time, like actually the tactility of it, of cherishing, and that's what fashion is also about. So
I feel like my project is not about just fashion, it's about a lifestyle, and it's our duty to do something with these big, things you say, but it's not only about fashion, it's the way how we treat the things in life. It's you're talking about collecting stuff. It's not fashion you're collecting, it's also your furniture, your ceramics, your everything, and we should take care of it. The moment you buy something, it's yours and you should treat it well. And I think, as an artist, it's your job to show that, or maybe sell it in a dream, but with a good story. And not only selling a dream with, you should buy everything, but the dream is to take care of it. So that maybe the dream has changed for me.
But for me, it's also nice, and I think there are more of you that can relate to this, is that fashion as a practice has become much more hybrid, right?
Yeah,
and
I would like to call myself a hybrid designer, not just... I would like to call myself a hybrid designer, not just a fashion designer. And maybe I know the things, all the techniques for the fashion, but the moment I step into another discipline, I can take that knowledge with me and I find new solutions. And I think that's interesting, to find crossovers and find new solutions.
Is there someone else, also you two at home, who can relate to this feeling of not really wanting to limit oneself to fashion per se, but also to some other sort of hybrid forms, or have been experimenting or playing with that a little bit? Yeah? yeah, maybe you at home. Sorry, if yeah, maybe we can.
Yeah. Well, I think that what we learned at school, how to approach fashion, is you can do that in many different ways, and it depends on the concept itself. And I do think that you can translate some concepts, of course, in garments, but you can also translate it in other materials.
Mm-hmm.
In a way.
Can you speak a little bit about how you went about that?
Well, because of my history in fashion, I'm really used to tactility, and I really love to feel stuff and to work with that. And I recognize myself in a situation that I don't wanted to use textile anymore. So I experimented with a lot of different materials as well, such as ceramics or something else. And I think that is also really interesting to use other materials besides textile.
Do you guys know that the Meulemeester has actually also recently shifted to ceramics, which is, I mean, it's a testament to, you know, how you could also sort of shapeshift, I would say, as a designer.
Yeah, and I think especially of the ceramics on the Meulemeester, you still see her story, what she also used during on the Meulemeester as a fashion designer. You really can see that she sells the same idea, but just use a different material.
Yeah, and a different medium, but still have that signature sort of transpiring in whatever she does.
I also think, and here the school in Maastricht has, I think, making a really good plan out of it, because we got our education not according to, okay, we are fashion designers, but the way how we work. Like, for example, I always work from the body, or like I'm really interested in the connections between people and how the body works and whatever. And that's what I base my work upon, but it could be a chair I make, or it could be jewelry or fashion. It doesn't really matter. In the end, it's just a story I want to tell, or an issue I want to communicate, and that's translated into objects that I can either wear or sit on or whatever. And I think it's really nice to have this freedom, and I feel like it's breaking open more and more now.
I just wanted to say that maybe the world does not need more fashion designers. I mean, like, again, what I did for my project, I went back in time when fashion designers did not really exist, but still from back then you can see a lot of beautiful pieces in a museum, like how did it happen, like that we still appreciate something that was made not by a graduate after 4 years or 5 years of education. How did it happen? So basically my point is that maybe like if we as as the creatives tell or show a really good example or inspire people how to make stuff by yourself, and then it can be anything. It can be a pair of trousers, it can be a blouse, it can be a hat, a helmet, any sort of, a plate, whatever. Anything you feel you want to make, then this is it. Because in the end, if you put indeed the same love, the same sweat and tears into something that you personally find beautiful, then nobody can take it from there. And maybe our role is just to show that actually it is possible. And then kind of it will be sort of balanced again. There will be no overconsumption, because you cannot overconsume something that you cannot make. Just make it first, and then let's take it from there. Yeah.
Well, it's. I mean, you were speaking also about like the folkloric, beautiful folkloric dresses that you you know, back in the, well, still exists. Yeah, I think what I read a lot of in your statements is like this tactility and the importance of tactility. But what about those designers that are actually, you know, turning digital? The digital fashion revolution. I mean, I think there are some skeptics, and I remember reading an interview with The Fabricant, which is the first digital fashion house based in Amsterdam, and I was like, nah, I'm having none of this. But I mean, some of us, I think some of your work was actually took place in the digital sphere. Do you think this skepticism is warranted, or?
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna wear digital clothes anytime soon. I think there's definitely a need for tactility in clothes, and I don't think that's ever gonna disappear. What I do think is interesting is that fashion designers are dreamers and are people who want to create a beautiful future, and the material that they use and the form that they use is catering to this fantasy. That's what I think. And if this is a sustainable fantasy or a digital fantasy, that forms the form of the fashion. In my project, I stuck digital parts onto tactile parts because I believe that these two might enrich each other. Like that was the beginning of my project. It was the question if the digital world could expand or enhance the tactile fashion industry. And I never questioned, well, I did question, but I never felt like the digital world would take over or that the tactility of fashion would become obsolete, because I don't think so.
Even in a world in which all we do is Zoom call and parties have drinks, or
no, I don't think so. But I do think it's interesting to experiment with form and to experiment with the time and space in which fashion exists and the form in which fashion exists and the art form of fashion. But I think that we will always find the need to dress up. Yeah.
Visual samples, you can make it in a digital program, so you use less material, which is very sustainable. So I think it will be more in the future, and it will be a very good option to experiment with shapes and sizing.
But then it's more about the process that you'd rather take digital.
Yes, more about the process indeed.
Yeah, because I think at the time we questioned like what a digital garment would cost, and I mean, for now the rendering, the designing, I mean, it's a fortune. So it sort of seems to undermine a little bit the idea of, you know, cutting back costs and making it more sustainable. But you also wanted to say.
Yes, I actually totally agree with Ilse. I think it's a great solution during the process, but the thing where I'm really afraid of is that when you, for example, use Chloe 3D and you have a garment and then you can click on, okay, I want to make this garment from a silky material, and then you can see that on the rendering. But I think we are in this world, we already don't know a lot about textiles or how you can recognize it. And I think if you continue doing everything digitally, that feeling is going further and further away. And I think it's actually really sad that a lot of people don't recognize certain weave techniques anymore, or certain fabrics, or certain specific embroidery techniques. And when you make it totally digital, those two worlds will go further away from each other. And I actually think that is really sad.
Yeah. So the sort of the old crafts might actually be lost. But this is right. Maybe we can. No, but let's capture
But
it.
I think it's also the feeling for worth, which might get like right now already. Like people think €5 for a T-shirt is a fair price, and it's just not. And if you even only continue seeing things on the screen, it might feel even more abstract. And especially behind like digital fashion, just like you said, it's amazing how much work is behind that and how expensive that can get. And even like with digital fashion, it's even more invisible how much work is behind that, and people cannot even tell how much work there is behind a T-shirt. And that gets more and more digital. I think this gets lost even more in the future.
But I think I do get you guys' concern that these old crafts might get lost. But I also, what I've seen, and I've been to many graduate shows over the last few years, is also the sort of revisiting of these old techniques, bringing them back to life. I think, Katja, you've been doing like lots of handcraft in your work as well, which was, I'm not sure if that was part of the plan or a sort of you were forced to do so because you didn't have the access to machinery. But
in my case, I decided to basically turn myself into a machine. So that's why I operated as a machine, stitch after stitch, knot after knot. But this is also not the case because, interestingly enough, I designed the whole collection digitally. So I did design it in Cloth 3D, but then I just took it from there. So I stopped it with that, and then all the fittings and the rest of the stuff I did physically, because obviously there is an issue with Cloth 3D. You never get a really nice fit. If you see it nicely on the screen, it will never fit nicely on the body. So you need to take it into account. So that's why you cannot blindly rely on digital fashion, that's for sure. And in my case, indeed, it is also about the tactility of the hours of the work that sit inside of the garments. And I think with digital garments and digital fashions, it is the same story as with fast fashion, because in the end, it is the same sort of problem that people try to consume in order to fill up the gap that they have in their mind and soul. And if they get a digital image of a garment that they will consume, then it will not fix their kind of psychological problem. That's the thing, the issue with me and digital fashion, because then it's not sustainable at all, because they just twisted. They give you what you kind of want, what you ask for, but in a different wrap. And this is not solving the problem. The problem, again, lays in the psychology of people, of those who produce and those who consume, but not in the instruments they use. So digital fashion, in my opinion, will never be sustainable, because it is kind of, I will say, rotten from the beginning. So it's not right what they do. Sorry.
No. Controversial opinions are allowed on this floor. No, I'm joking. But
these two are not fighting each other.
Wait, maybe.
These industries are not fighting each other. I think they can coexist next to each other. It's not like there is only one floor and we have to fight for the space and fight for consumers and fight for whatever. I think there should be more designers and more practices and more people who do more stuff and research all the areas of whatever craft. And I think that embroidery is a craft, and I think that working on the PC is a craft. It's these two live next to each other and grow next to each other and are explored next to each other and are not fighting for attention or making the other less important, or you know. And also there's a lot of craftsmanship in the digital industry, and there are a lot of people involved in making 3D cloth simulations for film, and it's a huge industry, and it's also It has many different practices other than you buy a digital garment. Ooh. It's much more vast and depth and much more layered and can have many different purposes in my opinion. And I think that the revival of old crafts and the coming of new crafts, they grow next to each other, and I think it's very interesting that they grow next to each other because they're so far apart. But I think that the loss of tactility that is involved in digital fashion is of course a big thing to note, because it's we value the tactility of clothes less and less the more we consume.
And so is there someone else here who explicitly like used sort of specific techniques or really, maybe you can explain a little bit about that, because I like to hear it.
Yeah, well, I think I'm definitely a designer who loves to work with my hands, because if you tell me something about your digital work, and I find that a little bit different part of fashion, of difficult part for me, and I really love to work with my hands because I made all the designs by my hand. I frayed, I cut pieces of fabric and then I frayed everything by my hand, and then I put it on the how do you call it, the patterns. And so I used a lot of different techniques in my designs, and I really love to do that. So
nice.
That.
Anyone else? Otherwise, I think we should talk a little bit also about like some of the challenges that lay ahead, because I mean, you graduated this summer, right? And now it's a rite of passage. You are all going to enter the vast world, which is quite, at the moment specifically, quite intimidating. I would like to hear a little bit like how you plan on going about it, and whether you're gonna sort of build up your own practice a little bit, and also let's talk a little bit about if you actually shy away from like the commercial aspect of your designs, or you're planning on resisting all these commercial pressures. And also we can talk a little bit about how you plan to sort of market yourself a little bit, and whether Instagram is as a tool is necessary, or you can actually decide to escape it. Maybe we can start with you, and then I can go to Josephine. So this is just
I think it's something I've been thinking about for the past few months actually, because my graduation collection is not wearable at all or sellable either. So I'm not sure yet which way to go right now, as I'm not really keen on the idea to simplify my designs to make it more sellable, because that wasn't the starting point of my project, and also not my passion to create fashion. So I'm trying to figure out ways how to eventually make a living by making the sculptures actually that I make, maybe by musea or exhibitions, and maybe renting stuff out to stylists for photo shoots, stuff like that.
So you, what you're saying is, at the moment, you don't really want to compromise on your designs yet.
No, not at all, actually.
Because where's the line?
Yeah.
You know, like how do you, stay true to yourself, and especially when you've just graduated. I think it's very honest of you to admit to that like I'm not willing to compromise
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot actually, but it doesn't feel right to change that. And also, since sustainability is kind of a big part also of my project, selling stuff has never been the point of it. It was more like to create an awareness about climate change and the impact that the fashion industry has on it. So, yeah, but it's a bit harder to think about the financial part of that than, yeah.
But I think before we turn to you, what you've done is like you've put together a statement, and where you want to go with that statement is still quite open. I would love to hear from the rest of you guys whether that's something that is intimidating for you, or is that something that you're actually okay to face? But maybe you can also talk a little bit about what some of these challenges are ahead of you, that are laying ahead, and whether you feel any commercial pressure, I think.
Well, if you would have told me 3 months ago where I would be right now, I wouldn't really believe it, because 3 months ago my plan for the future was totally different. I graduated with a plan to do a master's in New York or in Paris, and that's what I wanted to do, because I felt like I wasn't done learning, and I wasn't maybe not like serious enough to be on the work floor, because I don't know, I just wanted to play around a little bit more and see where I could like reach my limits and be like better my qualities in each way and be more disciplinary in a way. And then after graduation, I got this opportunity at Tom Wood in Oslo, in my home country, Norway. And I was like, I saw the list of what they wanted like in this position. I was like, can I say it? Fuck it, I'm going to try it. And then I got this opportunity and I was like, what? So I think I was just like, make the jump. I don't care. Try it. I will learn in a different way. If it's not in the masters, I will learn on the work floor. And I think it is the ready-to-wear department is still so fresh. So I could be this huge part of it to make it grow, or make it like put a little bit of me in it, and work together with this designer. And I'm like, yeah, it's really good for me to work and learn in this way. It goes so fast and I'm already feeling so at home. But yeah, the masters, I don't think I'll do a masters anymore. Maybe to like jump in a few years to another place and think out of the box and try something new. And an own brand, I wanted an own brand. And then I was like, maybe not now. But I think in years when I truly feel comfortable with what I do, and I think I have this strong concept, a strong base of what I want it to look like, and market space and whatever. And I think I would make the jump, but not now. That's definitely not now.
Okay. So you're going to Oslo to just dive in.
It's crazy dark here. Can't you see? I'm in Oslo.
You're basically in a permanent.
Yeah, it's really it's practical midnight. No, it's like 3:30, and it's really dark, and it's quite depressed of how quickly the sun goes away. But
so
it's cozy.
So actually, I mean, your post-graduation ideas of what you wanted to do have gone out of the roof. And
out of the window. Yeah. I was just like, yes, let's change that.
Yeah. And but that's congratulations, first of all.
Thank you. Yeah. That was very spontaneous.
Yeah. Well, sometimes spontaneous pays off. I guess.
Sorry?
But sometimes being spontaneous pays off.
I really love spontaneous stuff. It's just like, okay.
Okay. And I think maybe someone else wants to sort of comment on, you know, their fears, but also maybe what excites them about this postgraduate life.
I think my own graduation project just really inspired me. The project was about making stuff with love and treat them well, and Corona gives me the time to really do that, because there is time, and I experienced different techniques, and I really fell in love with ceramics. And I never expected that, because I was a fashion designer. I was going to do a lot with textile. It was all my thing, and then there was ceramics. And because we have the time, I feel like there is time to learn about this technique. So the past few months, I have been working with this new technique and learning all about it. And now I'm making my own ceramics and I'm selling them, but I'm selling a product which I put all my love in. And I think that my own graduation project was telling me this. That if you make something, it should be made with love. And if it's made with love, maybe people would treat it better. Yeah. And I think thanks to Corona that now I can do this.
Yeah, so it laid a sort of foundation for your practice.
Yes, because before I was going to all these expositions, and I was going to with this graduation work, and I didn't know where to go with. And now it feels like a side thing, and I'm more focused on ceramics, and I have the time to really learn about the technique. And normally there is no time, but now there's time.
And you feel also the liberty to sort of explore that even further.
Yes, there
and
is
take
space
it
to do it, and no one says me it's wrong or it's good. I can just do it, and there's all the time in the world to explore and make something with love. And it looks like my graduation project, but in a whole new form, and people can buy it, and they buy something that's made with love. And I hope people will also treat it like that. So I'm not afraid anymore.
That's really nice to hear, because oh, hey, Eden. Hello. Can you hear me? Okay, well, we'll just continue. So maybe we can, if someone else wants to sort of speak a little bit about their post-graduation life. And I'm actually really happy that you guys don't feel excited and not disheartened, which you shouldn't feel, because it's all going to be okay.
For me, it was actually also my plan to just graduate. Still, I really wanted to have my own practice, but at the same time work for another company as a designer to actually, because normally, of course, in the first few years with your own practice, you don't really can keep your head over water financially. So I thought, okay, I really have to work commercially somehow to, live from something. But now with Corona, nobody's hiring. So I was like, okay, what am I doing? So I had all the time I basically have to put into my own practice and to find other solutions and to find ways to put my skills to work and to, like, I don't know, make money out of the few things I have or I know to do. And I really like the way it kind of develops now, and it turned into something which I could have never planned. So that's actually really nice and would have never happened if Corona would have not happened, I think.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad positive stories are actually coming out of this. Anyone else? Because I think also we're slowly wrapping it up a little bit.
Well, I am currently taking a lot of classes on YouTube, of course, and I'm taking the time to watch every tutorial out there on every subject I want to learn about. And I think it's, I just realized that there is so much, like there is no barrier to knowledge, and you don't really need to go to school to learn anything. Well, for context, yes, maybe, but you don't really need to go to school to have access to knowledge anymore. And I think it's so nice. And I feel so sad that I've only discovered this now, and I'm learning so much in the past few months about, you know, I just Google it on YouTube and there's so many tutorials. It's really cool.
Because is there anyone, so you've abandoned your master's plan, or you had to, you were forced to. Does anyone else wants to continue doing, go for another degree, or do you want to, who wants to, no one? And anyone wants to start build up their own brand? Because that's also, I think, I've seen this shifting as well over the last like 10 years or so, that most graduating students were super keen to start their own brand, like that was the holy grail, or work at a fashion house in Paris. But I feel those two options are being more increasingly getting abandoned.
Well, I am at the moment starting my own brand with a friend of mine, but it's not a fashion brand at all. Well, it is, but not really. My friend graduated from cooking school, and it's we're creating an online platform that collects stuff based on lifestyle based, but with a look on like heavy look on DIY and crafts and craftsmanship, and from cooking at home to creating your own clothes from scrap materials to basically I want to create this kind of learning platform on YouTube that really focuses on in and around the house to create your own stuff and your own food and your own clothes, and to be very resourceful and to be very creative with the materials that are already there. So it's very much not like a collection-based fashion brand, but I do think it's kind of like of its time to focus on this, you know, this ideology of sitting at home and doing your crafts is something that I've grown very fond of, and I would like to inspire people to do crafts and to feel very, to get a lot of feeling of production out of crafts, which is sometimes viewed as a lesser hobby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a nice inspiration, and I think very much of the time. And you guys at home, anyone wants to sort of elaborate a little bit about their future aspirations? You raise your hand if you want to. No? Nothing directly. Can all of you hear me? Okay. 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 Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have a dream, of course, what I want to reach in the future. That's not, I don't want to have my own brand, but I would love to have a company that will make concepts and starting points of a collection, and like many different books from that. And I would love to sell these concepts to different designers, but then really well researched, and also with the idea how you can use cultures a proper way, and yeah, something like that.
Almost like a sort of fair practice in design. A little bit like Grace Wills Bonner also does. I think the way she approaches fashion is also very much research-based, and
yeah,
which is also something that has become more prominent, which I, as an anthropologist, really applaud and welcome, because
Yeah. Yeah, during my internship, I was actually really surprised that the brand where I did my internship, they used to go to museums for their research and for their inspiration. And when I got there, I discovered that nowadays they only use Pinterest to have many different visuals. And I was really like, they thought it was really sad as well because they didn't have the time to do well research anymore because of that they had to produce more and more and more. So that was also one of my inspirations that I would like to go that way, but not straight away. I first want to learn the industry a little bit better to continue that dream.
Yeah, good, nice. Anyone else? Otherwise, I think, or anyone who feels they would like to comment or vent. This is a safe space. No? Okay. Well, thank you guys for all your contributions. It's actually nice to have people from all different institutions come together and share their experiences a little bit. I think this is the most people I've been in a room in 9 months, so that's worth something. Cool. All right. Thank you. Yay. Thanks, guys at home, for your attentive ear.